No. Good. You good? Ready? You guys ready to go? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Better wait. I've got 2 minutes. Yeah. I know. I hadn't reset the clock on my truck yet until the way out here. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes. I'd like to call this March 14th meeting of the Rockingham County School Board to order. Welcome to all who are in attendance. Pleased you can be here. It's nice to start a meeting with daylight outside. And it's just a pleasure to have all of you here. The first item on our agenda is for the approval of the agenda, and I will entertain a motion in that regard.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. This time I would ask that everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And at this time, would you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Next, we will move into public comments. Just as a reminder, as we have been doing, each speaker will be given 3 minutes. At the 32nd time left, I will tap the gavel once. We would just ask again that everyone refrain from applause or comments during the time that the speaker is speaking so as to not take away from their time while they are speaking. And in addition to that, in an effort to be respectful to one another. We'll begin with Lori Meyer.
Good evening. I'm here as a parent, community member, and advocate
to ask that we as a district come together and hold ourselves accountable and not limiting our work toward equity. I would like to see our district consider creating a position for a chief equity officer and considerate effort put in regarding who would fill that position. I believe our children will better be served if equity is not only an added task to a department or committee, but a district leadership position that will develop and implement. In Fairfax County Public Schools, the description of the Chief Equity Officer is as follows: supports and leads efforts by FCPS to align actions around the shared value of equity by expanding perspectives, creating the space for courageous conversations, leveraging and building upon strengths, helping all staff to understand the difference between symptoms and root causes, challenging the status quo, clarifying and focusing attention on core purpose, and ensuring that FCPS does all that it can to unlock the potential of each student. In Albemarle County Public Schools, there is an assistant superintendent for school community empowerment, which includes equity education and looks like equity policy checklists, an anti-racism policy, staff development, tracking and existing disparities, advisory committee, and accountability of policies and procedures. I believe that we have to rethink and create to better our schools. Equity will not happen with just changed mindsets, but alongside that with changed policy and procedures. Maybe it's not in this upcoming budget, but honestly, I don't know where where all of you stand on the push for 3 more SROs or a professional safety manager in this upcoming budget that is soon to be decided. But I personally would feel better with the chief equity officer protecting our children in our schools. If not now, the next budget. Let's keep talking about it. Let's look for grants. Let's look at schools who have created this position. I'm just asking that you please not limit what we do with equity. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Parks, and I'm a National Board Certified Teacher Librarian, and I have 30 years of experience in working with children in school libraries, primarily middle school and high school. I rise tonight to encourage support of diverse books for students in Rockingham County schools. Now, a diverse collection should contain content by and about a wide array of people and cultures to authentically reflect a variety of ideas, information, stories, and experiences. Our kids come from all over. They need to be able to see themselves. In the words of Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, books are sometimes windows, offering views of worlds that may be real or imagined, familiar or strange. These windows are also sliding glass doors, and readers have only to walk through in imagination to become part of whatever world has been created and recreated by the author. When lighting conditions are just right, however, a window can also be a mirror. Literature transforms human experience and reflects it back to us. And in that reflection, we can see our own lives and experiences as part of the larger human experience. Reading, then, becomes a means of self-affirmation, and readers often seek their mirrors in books. But those books have to be available for them to see themselves and to see their communities and to be able to see the wider communities. Diverse books are often the most challenged, although their diversity is not the reason why they are challenged. Other Other reasons such as profanity are often brought up with these books. Now, not every book is for every kid, and parents do have the right to choose what their child may read. But if they want to choose what every child may read, there's a reconsideration process that needs to be gone through for that. And I encourage you all to work with your librarians to look at the collections to have the broadest variety possible for our kids so that they can see those windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Board. I'm here this evening to speak on one book in particular that's in our libraries. There are littles in the room, so I don't feel comfortable reading excerpts from the book. It's The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. I'm sure you guys have received emails over it the past couple of days. Personally, I don't believe if it's not okay to say at the dinner table, it's not okay to be available to children. And whatever process that we have that goes through approving books to be in our libraries needs to be fixed. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dr. McQuilkin.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Braden. This evening, I would like to highlight a few opportunities that have been going on in our school division. We have art, our students' art is available to see at the JMU Memorial Hall and at the Smith House Gallery. So I encourage anyone who wishes to look at our students' art, please go to those two locations, and I know you will enjoy it. I'm in the arts mood tonight, so I'm going to talk about the fact that the high school musicals are over, and they were wonderful. Every one of them, I went, and they were great. And Pence Middle School has already completed its program, but we have yet to see and hear Hilliard. Hilliard is coming up in April, and Montevideo Middle and Elkton Middle will be, their musicals will be in May. So I encourage you all to come and participate. And then I understand there was a District 5 band assessment for various communities in our area, and the bands were performing and they were assessed. And I believe that Broadway High School, you'll have to check on this, Broadway High School won. And we thank Becky Ford from Broadway High School, who was the chair of this whole committee, this group of schools, and Sean McCumber, who hosted the group at Spotswood High School. And now that concludes my art section, but I know that we're moving from winter sports to spring sports, and bring it on. We love for our students to be participants, so we encourage all of our students to find something in their schools and in extracurricular wise and enjoy it. And we're so glad that all the schools join together, whether it's in arts or in sports, we join together and participate and cooperate together. That's it.
Thank you. I just wanted to express congratulations to the Broadway FFA Conduct of Meetings team. They placed first in the state and will be working from now until November to prepare for the national contest. And I'm disappointed because Caleb, who spoke at our last meeting, was, let me get this right, all-state treasurer. So if you see Caleb at the next meeting, please be sure to congratulate him on that. We also had Aaron Mateta and Allie Phillips as all-state officers as well. So just congratulations to those students. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you for everyone showing up tonight. Students, there's a lot of students here, and welcome to your school board meeting tonight. Parents, it's good to see you as well. It's good to have the community engagement, people coming and speaking and taking part of what goes on here at school board governance. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make the last meeting. I was on a missions trip in El Salvador, and I've been doing that for almost 20 years now, and enjoy going down there at least twice a year. So I try to plan I will try to plan my fall visit down there when it's not a school board night. I will miss the following meeting. I'm going to be going out to Los Angeles. I have opportunity to speak at a very large Latino church out there, and I was given the opportunity, and I do not want to turn them down. So please excuse me on the next one. I will not be here, but I am still available. I'm still taking phone calls and your emails and staying very much engaged to what's going on. So thank you for your understanding on that, and I should be at the rest of the board meetings for the rest of the year. Tonight, I just want to highlight a couple of our basketball coaches and teams that went past our districts. Congratulations to the East Rock Varsity Boys Basketball Team and Coach Carrie Keys for what you accomplished this year. The community came out in huge support as they traveled to every school and did such a fabulous job representing Rockingham County as our division. And Carrie Keys is a childhood hero. He's an amazing coach. We're glad to have him out at East Rockingham High School. Was the point guard for a 1993 state championship boys basketball at Spotswood High School when I was a kid. So thank you, Carrie, for doing that. Also, Tyler Nichols. We need to, I wanted to congratulate him tonight. He is the all-time leading scorer for Virginia High School League. And so he has scored more points than any other student in basketball in Virginia history. And that's a huge accomplishment. And he's been given a full ride to UNC and to the Tar Heels. And it's going to be exciting seeing him on national television playing sports, and as his hometown folk just representing and thanking him for everything he's done. It's been really cool to have such a superstar this doesn't happen that often. This comes around once in a lifetime. I mean, if you look at the last person like him to come through, this is, I don't know. I mean, last night we had what's the young man for Spotswood for Arizona was Justin Kier. Yeah, to see Justin Kier come through and see him playing for Arizona and seeing him on national television was pretty cool. But something like this probably hasn't come around since like Ralph Sampson. And so this has been pretty cool. So Tyler, thank you for all you did for our community. And you got a lot of young boys and girls that are so excited to play sports in another generation. So thank you. I also thank you to Coach Chad Edwards. He did such a fabulous job every year. I mean, people move in our district, in District 3, to attend Spotswood High School because of him being such a great, successful basketball coach. So, Mr. Edwards, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for his team for representing Spotswood Blazers. And to the girls, that's another amazing. Chris Dotson out at Spotswood High School is an amazing coach. And every year, winning doesn't come easy. It's very difficult to do, and I'm very proud of what we do here in Rockingham County. So Chris Dotson, thank you so much for your accomplishments. And not only that, but Chris does an amazing job taking care of the younger girls that are coming up through the ERSC program. And so you'll see him at a Friday night basketball game, and then early morning Saturday back out on the court teaching little girls how to play the game, and his kids coming back through to help them to learn how to play the game. So thank you, Coach Dotson, for all you do, and your time you spend is just, it's amazing what you do. And lastly, tonight, I wanted to say just congratulate Scott Turner for becoming Turner Ashby High School's new varsity football coach. Scott's an amazing coach. He's done a great job down at East Rock over the years. The only thing that I don't like is I'm starting to see a dynasty being built at Turner Ashby, and being in the east side of the school district for so long, we're seeing Mr. Baylor down there. We're seeing Coach Coleman being hired down there. Now we're seeing Coach Turner being down there. So we need to make sure that the east side still stays strong. But these men have built up a good a good following behind them, and I think we're going to be in okay hands. So congratulations to Mr. Turner for becoming, I know it's a dream come true for you, but becoming the next head varsity football coach at Turner Ashby High School. Go Knights. Thank you.
A lot of the highlights that I was going to talk about have already been covered. Spring sports, always a special time of the year for me because I get to coach soccer at Spotswood. And one of the, in relation to girls basketball, you know, one of the highlights actually always is when I have to tell a player, hey, I hope you're not at our game tomorrow because it means you're still playing in the state tournament, right? And that's what happened when we went down to Blacksburg for a jamboree, and one of the basketball players who's on our soccer team and said, I hope you're not going to be in Blacksburg tomorrow because that means you won tonight and you're playing again next week. So these are always, you know, a lot of sports being played and we're going outside and all those things. So that's really great to see. In terms of Tyler Nickel, again, not just a great basketball player, but involved as well. He spoke at a school board meeting more than a year ago about, you know, how we can play basketball safely, and really his conversation here, his public comment made a big difference in how we allowed basketball to happen last year. So that was quite impressive as well. We had a great first core community dialogue group meeting. It was one of the most diverse groups. I've been around over the last few years, and again, people who may not really have conversations with each other on a daily basis, but so many laughs and high fives and positive comments at the end in terms of building a dialogue in this community around difficult topics, but that remains respectful. And that was really neat to see. And again, we'll expand that to a larger community framework later in the spring. So that was great as well. And Dr. Barnes from EMU led that. And then finally, something Mr. Cross had talked about earlier in the school year, the Strong Starts program at Cub Run. And so it's this intensive assistance program we have for students in early grades who have significant behavior issues that can't function in the regular classroom. And the intensive assistance they get in Angel Ship's classroom, again, with behavior support. And last week I got to visit that program. And two of the students that I'd seen there earlier in the year who really couldn't be in their classroom for more than just a few minutes that were in that intensive assistance program, I got to visit both of those students in their regular classroom now as they had transitioned to full-time attendance in those rooms and were functioning quite well. And so it's changing lives for these kids. And I know you appreciated it when you were there, and it continues to shine and is really, from an education perspective, definitely the highlight of the last few weeks for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. Students, can I see hands? Okay, good contingent tonight. We will be happy, any one of the 6 of us will be happy to sign your agendas after the business meeting. So feel free to come on up and get that done. And I hope you learned something. And if you have questions afterwards, feel free to ask as well. I just wanted to mention as a highlight that Ms. Laura and I met along with Dr. Scheichel and Cheryl Mass this morning with our counterparts, the Board of Supervisors, to discuss not only this upcoming budget, but some longer term things that will be potentially coming down the pike. And I just continue to be amazed at the working relationship between these two boards. And, you know, I had an opportunity to participate in a presentation to the Virginia School Boards Association about that working relationship one time. And it remains, even as members change, and on both boards, it's nice to be able to go down and sit down around a table and have a discussion that's non-confrontational, but is very frank and very transparent. So that was a good experience this morning, I think. So, all right, we will move into action items. We need to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. If there is a motion in that regard, I would entertain it at this point.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. The bills and mileage from February of 2022.
I recommend approval of the bills and mileage for February 2022.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. Is there a motion for support of the superintendent's recommendation?
I move that we follow the superintendent's recommendation to approve the February 2022 bills as presented.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? It is 5-0. Field trips, Dr. Scheichel.
You have a number of field trips for your approval tonight. Broadway High School, FBLA, April 1 through the 3rd. 6 to 8 students to Hampton, Virginia. Turner Ashby High School, FFA, April 22nd through the 24th. 30 students to the Chesapeake Bay Field Study on Smith Island, Maryland, and Reedsville, Virginia. FFA on June 27th through the 30th, 20 students. A state FFA convention at Virginia Tech. The TA Choir, April 21st through the 23rd, 3 students to the All Virginia course in Richmond. Turner Ashby High School and Wilbur Pence Middle School. A TSA, April 28th through May 1st, 42 students to the Virginia TSA Technosphere in Hampton and East Rockingham High School Choir, April 21st through the 23rd. 2 students to Glen Allen, Virginia and Henrico, Virginia, and I recommend approval of those field trips as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. Business is picking up. So I will
Thankfully.
entertain a motion in support of the superintendent's recommendation if it be the board's desire.
Yeah, I move to follow. Approve the field trips.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Any questions or comments?
I have a quick question that I'm pretty sure I know the answer to, but I just want to get it out there so everybody's clear. The Smith Island shows method of transportation as a bus to Maryland, but we don't allow our buses to leave the state, but they take the bus to Reedville and catch a boat, right?
That's correct.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous as well. The bid for the MTC East Building structural upgrade. Ms. Matt?
Center was properly specified and advertised. 9 firms were invited to bid. 4 firms attended a mandatory pre-bid conference, and 3 firms responded with sealed bids. The recommendation is to award the contract to the low bidder, Harrisonburg Construction Company, in the amount of $80,812.
And I recommend approval of the bid as presented to Harrisonburg Construction Company Incorporated from Dayton, Virginia for $80,812.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. You've heard a review of the bidding and the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion in support?
We're all asleep today. I move to follow the superintendent's recommendation to accept the bid for upgrading the east building at MTC.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Any questions or comments?
When will this begin?
It's going to begin fairly soon because it will be finished before June 30.
Be finished before?
It will be finished before June 30.
Oh, wow.
The end of the budget year.
Correct.
I struggle with direction. Which one's the east building?
The east building is where the
It's where we have the
That-
board meeting.
The
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like if you're looking at MTC, it's
over to
the
the left.
left
That's right.
building.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Other questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Mast. We will move to information items. We would begin with a presentation from Ms. Tate on the process for public complaint regarding curriculum instructional challenged materials. Ms. Tate?
Chair Breeden, members of the board, Dr. Scheichel. I was asked in December, I think, or maybe even November, by member of the board requested to share our process for challenged materials and just simply to explain the policy as I understand it. And I want to make clear before I share that policy that reading and writing and developing a community of readers and writers has been my life's work. I have been a teacher, a librarian, and for the last 8 years, the English and library supervisor in Rockingham County Public Schools. And I've always been very proud to work in this school division with the teachers and the librarians, the principals, the board members, the superintendents that I have worked with. It has been a true privilege, and I think the reason I have been so proud is the collaboration that happens, as Chair Breeden mentioned earlier, among all of those people. I also think it's important to tell you that I have a strong belief in faith in teachers and librarians and also young people. My experience has been that young people give me hope. And while it is not every teacher's why, to work to help young people find their way, to develop positive relationships with them. For me, my why is my hope to make the world a better place. And young people have always, always given me that hope. The policy that I'll be sharing with you has been in place, to my knowledge, in its form. I think the only changes have been to change people's job titles, because job titles change in education quite frequently. We change them slightly. I can say for certain since 1995, when Sarah Scott was the English supervisor in Rockingham County Public Schools. And I believe the policy was in place previous to that, even when I began working in the school division in 1984. So I feel very strongly that the policy has served us well. Librarians make decisions about books and libraries based on their professional experience, in particular by looking at things like the School Library Journal, the Kirkus Review, to look at their professional organizations and publications to determine what is placed in our libraries and in our classrooms, and also to meet the diverse needs of the learners in our buildings. Every book is not for every child. Books win awards every day, and as I used to tell my students quite frequently, there are great books being written every day, and you too can be one of those people who writes that next great book. It was always my dream to teach a book that students, someone that I had taught, wrote. I will tell you that as a teacher, sometimes parents brought concerns to me about materials in my classroom. And in every circumstance, except one in my 38 years, the conversation stopped with a conversation between the parent and myself. And the way that happened was I explained my learning goals for use with that material. If that was not appropriate for that parent or that family, I did what our policy has always been, even though it's not written down in this policy, which is to provide an alternative selection for that child to be able to meet the learning goals that I had established in my classroom. And I am grateful that parents showed me the respect not to go to my principal, not to go to my superintendent, but to come first and talk to me. And again, the joy of working in this community has really been that I felt like I had positive relationships with my families and with my students. and students could ask for alternative materials. So the policy itself, all right, Mr. Perkins, you may have to help me if it's not moving. Which button? Oh, this one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's see if I'm going in the right direction. Here we go. The policy was last updated, as you can see, in March of 2020. And as I said previously, I think that that was a result of some changing job titles. We have in place a media complaint form that can be used if a parent has a concern about a material in our school classroom or library. And that complaint form can be received from the principal, or it can be received online at the central office. The challenge, any official challenge, begins first at the school level. And we certainly don't make decisions because one person is concerned, because again, we all have different perspectives, different experiences that we bring to the table. When a parent came to me and said, the Holocaust never happened, I don't want my child to read Elie Wiesel's Night, I did not argue with that parent. I found an alternative resource for that student. The decision of the superintendent, if any challenge cannot be resolved at the school level, would come to the superintendent and could be appealed to the school board. This is the school procedure. The complainant first comes to a conference with the principal and the professional person responsible, whether it be librarian or a classroom teacher. And if, as in my experiences, a compromise cannot be reached, then that person would fill out the media complaint form. Once that complaint is filed, the principal convenes a committee, which includes 2 patrons of the school in which the complaint is filed, and 3 staff members, and their charge is to review the challenged materials. If the committee agrees to a recommendation acceptable to all parties, then the principal will carry out that recommendation and file a report with the superintendent of the schools to indicate that a resolution has been reached at the school level. If the complainant, whether that be a parent in the school, the staff member or principal, is not satisfied with the decision of that committee, then a division level committee is formed. Oops, sorry, I'm behind. Our division procedure is that a division level committee, and you can see the members of the committee before you. One would be a member of the superintendent's parent advisory, one parent or teacher organization officer, a school parent advisory committee member, the principal of the school involved in the complaint, the assistant superintendent of innovation and learning, the supervisor of media services, and one member of the Librarians Association shall make up the division committee in the event that the decision was not resolved at the school level. The committee provides a report, their decision regarding the text, to the superintendent, and the superintendent can then agree with their resolution or propose a different solution. And if resolution is not reached, the superintendent would make a recommendation for action by the school board, and the school board could make a final decision to retain, modify, or withdraw the challenged materials. Also, in our school division, though it is not part of the official school board policy, we have been, since 1995, using a format that was developed at the time called book finders for our classroom instructional text. And books that are being used for whole class instruction are book findered in our school division. And in middle and high school, typically books that will be used for instruction are listed on the teacher's syllabus. The evaluators in book finders are a teacher using the book and any combination of other division staff, parent, or when we get to high school, sometimes one high school student might also review the text. We always plan then to have, if we are using it for whole class instruction, 3 people having book findered a book that then goes on record both within the school and on a division spreadsheet so that teachers can access and know what has been approved at other schools. But ultimately, we have always operated under student choice. If a student came to me and said, "Ms. Tate, I find that I might not be able to read this book because there is something in it that inherently bothers me." For example, Huckleberry Finn. The only students who ever asked for an alternative to Huckleberry Finn in my classroom were not students of color, but they were bothered by language in the book. And so those students were, by our policy, by what we do every day in our classrooms, offered another choice for the text. When we book talk books, when we try to provide the right book for the right child, we are making an attempt to differentiate for the students who walk into our classrooms. I was a very lucky person. I grew up in a home where I always had food on the table, where I always knew that I had 2 parents who loved me, where I was not afraid or a victim of violence. But I can tell you, unfortunately, that there were students in my classroom who I often cried for because of what they had experienced. Sometimes reading things in books helps us to be able to talk about them. And I can tell you, in 38 years, not once did any student in my classroom ever snicker at language or derogatory terms. They never laughed when something happened in a book that was violent or hurtful to someone else, because I had faith in them to be able to talk intelligently, to think, and they didn't always think like I think, not by a long shot, but they were allowed to think and make decisions for themselves in my classroom. And if their family or a parent had a request for something different, as with all of the teachers that I work with and all of the librarians that I work with who work so tirelessly every single day, and then some, the same thing is true. And I realize there could be bad teachers, just like there are bad judges or bad doctors or an ornery person at the department store who checks me out. But I think we deal with those individuals rather than to label things and to say, it's not all right for my child. Because my children were able to have those conversations. And I say my children not only for the 2 who graduated from Rockingham County Public Schools, but also for my children that I taught and that I cared about. One of my proudest moments was Justin Kyer introducing me on a recruiting trip at James Madison University And I heard him tell the guy when he said, "This is Miss Tate," and the coach said, "Who is that?" And he said, "It's my librarian." And I watched Justin partly for that and because I wanted him in my library as often as I could get him there. So if a parent has a concern, it's always preferable to first have the conversation with the teacher or with the librarian. I think that's just what we try to teach children as the adult thing to do. And that doesn't mean we will agree at the end, but we can have that conversation. And we owe it to our children to model those behaviors, to understand our audience. And believe me, in 38 years, young people have changed. And to be honest, I'd say it's for the better in so many ways. And I love, love, love all those kids from 1984. And I tell them, when I knew better, I did better. So again, I get very passionate about reading because I want students to read and write for whatever purpose that might be. Every day and however they do it. And some of the greatest emails I've ever gotten are those things when they tell me, "Miss Tate, I used what you taught," or "Have you read?" And whether I'm visiting a classroom when kids challenge me because I didn't read The Lightning Thief until this year, I'm just putting it out there because I was challenged by a group of sixth graders at Pence to make sure I did that. And I owe them that. And so I will. So at this time, I'll do my best to entertain any questions that you might have for me. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I didn't take school law. I took English, library science.
Yeah. Questions for Ms. Tate? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for supporting teachers and librarians.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Next, we will move to budget update for 2022-23.
Chairman Breeden, members of the board, and Dr. Scheichel, this evening I would like to update you on our revenue. I have for you this evening the governor's budget along with the House and Senate version for comparison. There should be a copy at your desk. We'll also look at it on the screen. As you may know, the General Assembly adjourned without passing a budget. Therefore, what we look at this evening is the revenue that we will need to use to finalize our budget. I plan to use the governor's numbers, as we'll see that's kind of midway for our fiscal year 2023 budget. And once the General Assembly finalizes their budget, I will have to adjust as needed. If we look at the this document, the first column there is our current year budget. Then what you see in purple is the governor and the increase over current year budget based on what the governor suggested, the House, and then the Senate. And those will be obvious in the state revenue section. The miscellaneous stays the same across all three of those, and it's an increase of $84,000, $84,163. This is the state section, and that's where you will notice the governor's budget, House budget, and Senate budget yield different increases or decreases over our current year budget. If we look down at the bottom, okay, yeah, there we go. I missed the subtotal there at the bottom. You can see the governor's budget was $8,700,000. The House is an increase of $8,100,000, and the Senate is $10,300,000. And that is what I alluded to just a few minutes ago. We're not going to have accurate numbers going into passing our budget. So I think that I will use the governor's budget that gives an increase of $8,740,000 and recognize that it could come in lower or it could come in higher once the House and Senate pass a budget. The third section is our federal revenue, and again, that won't change related to state revenue. It yields a decrease of $1 million in next year's budget as it compares to this year's budget. If you look down clear at the bottom, there's where you can see a total of the miscellaneous, the state, and the federal budget, what our total increase would be based on governor, House, and Senate. So as I'll remind you, we have the superintendent's recommended budget presentation a week from tonight at MTC at 6 o'clock. At that presentation, we will have revenue balanced with the expenditure for a balanced budget. That'll be followed by a board vote on the budget Tuesday evening, March 22nd. The note at the bottom, one of the significant differences between the House and the Senate version is in the House compensation included a 4% plus a bonus, and the Senate had a 5% recommendation salary increase. And the House also did not provide for construction money that I had shown you in Fund 2103. So that will need to be determined at a later also. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have about that.
Questions for Ms. Mast?
I'm just curious about the House version with the bonus. Do we have to provide local matching funds to get the bonus? Do you understand my question? Like if they do I'm assuming that they're 4%, we have to pick up 2%
right.
locally. Is there a match on the bonus?
There's not necessarily a match on the bonus, but it's all tied together.
Gotcha.
The 4% and the bonus with the match required for the 4%.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Thank you, Cheryl.
Uh-huh.
Board members, you will find in your packet of information a financial review for February of 2022, as well as an attendance report for February of 2022. And there is a VSBA Hot Topic Conference, April 20th, Hybrid School Law Conference, June the 30th. Anyone who's interested in that, please notify the school board clerk. And with that, we will move to school board questions. I'll begin with Mr. Cross.
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. There are two things I just want to discuss that would be brought up on the April 11th agenda put on there, since I won't be at the next one. I'm asking that we would look at our current policy on parental notification when a student desires to be called another name different than their birth name given by the child's parent. Our current policy does not allow the parent to be notified by school administrators if a parent's child desires to be called by a separate name than given to him or her at birth while being at school. So if Johnny comes to the school counselor or the administrator and tells them that they would prefer to be called Sally, the child's parents do not have any say in it. So I would like to look at that policy there. And first of all, I think it's crazy that we're not allowing parents to know that. Like, so Johnny can say, "Call me Sally," and we're not allowing the parents to know that their child at school is being called a different name that was given at birth. It's a lot of wrong that goes on there. I mean, they have to have permission from a parental permission to get on a different bus to go home. But we're telling them that you can be called by a different name. That's wrong. And so I want to look at that policy and go over that and make that right for parents to be aware of what's going on. It's not about changing the name, but it should be that parents know what's going on with their child at school, and they should have that very right to know what's going on at school. So I don't like that we're hiding that. I don't like that we're not notifying parents on that. That's a very sensitive topic. And I hate that we're not telling parents that, we're telling administrators that they're not to call parents to let them know that they want to be called something different than what they are at home. So I want to go over that at the next, I would like that to be put on the agenda for the next time we meet on the April 11th meeting. I'm also want to be put on the agenda for the next time, and I brought it up at the last meeting I was at, but there hasn't been any move on this, so I'd like for it to be put on the agenda so we can talk about this and put this into the budget. But we need 4 more school resource officers in Rockham County Public Schools. That is the least that we could do to make sure that our schools are safe, that our students are safe. Right now, currently, this has been going on for a number of years, is that your high school resource officer, they take care of 5 schools. And in the midst of taking care of those 5 schools, we have 1 resource officer here with us tonight. Mr. Warwood, thank you so much for what you do at East Rockham High School. He's one of our top SROs, and I appreciate what you do. But Mr. Warwood, yeah, you can give him a hand.
Sure.
Way to go, Lamar.
Mr. Warwood takes care of 5 schools, and that's in the midst of training. That's in the midst of going to court. That's in the midst of being called for an emergency here. It's in the midst of having to take off work. All kinds of different things happen, and he's responsible for 5 schools. And the high school doesn't want Mr. Warwood to be gone that often, because at the high schools you have the majority of your issues that take place there. But he's required to go by and at least stop by those other schools at least once a week, which takes him away from his high school. And then when he has other things that happen at the middle school, or he has an incident that happens at the elementary school, he has to leave and investigate those things, and has to write reports, and has to go to court, and has to go to juvenile intake. And his job's pretty busy to take care of 5 schools and then to be present there at East Rockham High School. So I'm asking that we would at least hire 4 more SROs to put in every single middle school. And if the state picks up that extra budget, then great, then we don't have to pay for that. But if they don't, I think if we haven't learned a valuable lesson, how valuable that our school security and school campus police are with the current events at Bridgewater College, then we need to have someone there at our middle schools. And for my district, District 3, Montevideo is the only middle school in all 4 middle schools that lays outside of a town corporation. So if in case of an emergency, if the deputy Rodriguez, SRO at Spotswood High School, if he's not there at Spotswood High School, the response time could be quite some time to get someone there in case of a true emergency at Montevideo Middle School. So we need these resource officers put in the school. We need to look at it, and this can be done this year. It doesn't have to wait another year, and we don't have to say, okay, let's see if the state gives us enough money to give us that. We're looking at a budget here of a lot of money, and safety comes first with the kids and for the staff. So I'd like that be put on, Mr. Chairman, for the next meeting. And we can at least begin to discuss that and get that approved and put into the budget, so we can have 4 new school resource officers at least for the 2022-2023 school year. Tonight, I appreciate, Ms. Tate, you coming and explaining the policy for the curriculum and books when parents disagree with what's being put into our libraries. And the book that's been of discussion lately, and it's just one book, I believe, of many, as we begin to go down this road of parents really starting to see what their son and daughter's reading at school. So this is not just one incident that's going to happen or one thing that's going to be. And Mr. Perkins, could you put up those two slides that I gave you on the screen? These are not, I think Ms. Tate, you said that every book is not for every child. And I would say, but not every book is appropriate. And so true, not every book's for every child, but not every book is appropriate. And that's where we're really getting at. What's appropriate for children? And that's what concerns me when we say that that book's not for everyone, or that this student doesn't like that, or they come from this kind of household. But what is appropriate? What kind of values, what kind of morals do we have here in Rockingham County in the Shenandoah Valley? And I can tell you if you will, Mr. Perkins, did you put that up on the screen?
Yeah, we talked about this earlier, and Ms. Wine mentioned it as well. The difference between a book that is voluntary reading at a school and is mandatory reading is pretty much the same as showing it to a captive audience of students who are here and of students who may be watching at home and those who choose to do so.
So it's
I
inappropriate.
think anyone.
It's inappropriate for adults and those who are here tonight.
No.
It's inappropriate for us to see this tonight, but it's not inappropriate for 6th graders, 11-year-olders, 7th graders, and 8th graders to read this and take this home and read this, and it's okay. But it's inappropriate for this board, and it's inappropriate for those here tonight. Is that what we're saying?
What we're saying is it may be inappropriate for some of the very much younger folks who are seeing it.
The real purpose behind that is you don't want to put it up on the screen.
Nope.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The real purpose behind that is when you have racial jokes in a book that a 6th grader hears a joke like this and uses the N-word in a joke. An 11-year-old reads that, and all of a sudden they repeat that, and then a minority kid hears that in our schools. They think that kid's raised like that at home when they've read that in our library book. That's wrong. And if I say I don't even say that word, but it's okay to plant those seeds in our children and say that's appropriate. Not every book's for every child. I would say this: you can get your point across by not using that word. Yeah, we can get our points across by not using that word inside books. That my son that's 11 years old, he would read that and repeat that joke. That's not a joke. That's not funny. It's something that he'll get a whipping for at home if he uses that kind of language at home. And it's inappropriate for that to be inside of our schools. And then to talk about sexual, explicit stuff in there that, yeah, there is a child sitting here tonight, or I would read that. It's wrong. It's wrong. And the majority of our citizens in Rockingham County agree with me. It's wrong. And it's embarrassing that it's so wrong that we can't put that up here on the screen because there's a child in here tonight. But it's okay to send our children to school and put that on their school library and for them to read it. That's wrong. And we should be ashamed tonight. And we should, as a school board member or school board, we should say, you know what? Tonight, let's go ahead and let's vote to get that book out of our schools. We know that at least that's one book that needs to be out of our schools. Let's vote tonight to get that book out of our schools. But you won't. But you won't do it. It's inappropriate. It's sad. It's sad. I disagree with the comment that we've gotten better as a society. In 1984, this wouldn't be in the school. In 1998, it wouldn't have been in the school. Inappropriate. This is stuff you talk about in sexual education. This is stuff that professional teachers talk about with their sixth graders inside of family life. Not just to put, and that kind of curriculum is okayed by the division. It's okayed by parents who have access to that curriculum and family life. This is family life material. When you say that, thank God that God created thumbs for me, that I'm a professional, thank God. What was the top piece on it? Again, I can't even say it because there's a child sitting in the room. But values and morals are important. They form our character in life. Values form our character. Morals form our character. And we're having a pandemic of character in a generation in our schools right now. We're wondering, why are they acting like that? Why are they cussing us out in the classroom? I mean, if a kid goes and uses this language in the classroom and gets sent to the administrator, he's going to get kicked out of school. But it's okay to be in the books. It's okay to be in the library. We don't ask them, well, what kind of context did you use that word in when you called your teacher the B word? When you use the F word, what would you really mean and what was going on at that time? No, it's inappropriate. It's not how we talk. We don't talk like that in public, but it's okay to put that inside of the books, and it's okay for kids to check that out, and it's okay for them to take that home. So we need to be able to streamline books like this when it comes to our attention. And so I'm glad we have policy where it can go. See, this book went before the school, in middle school, went before the committee that was formed and was deemed to be okay. And so the book stayed in the school. And so its book's still in the library, and it's still cool for it to be in there. So books like this, in my opinion, we could cut all the red tape, all the nonsense in this. Cut all the red tape out, let it come straight before the superintendent, let it come straight before the school board, and let us make a decision on this, whether it's deemed appropriate or not. And that's what it's all about. It's about appropriateness. It's not about banning books. It's not about, that's a big thing. When you start saying this book is not appropriate, shouldn't be in the library, the other side wants to jump on you and say, well, you just want to ban books and burn books. No, that's not the case. It's about what's appropriate for a child to read at that age. And for my 11-year-old son to go to school and pick up that book and to read that, that's inappropriate. Not just for my household, but that's inappropriate for children. It's morals, it's values, it forms character inside. And we're looking at what character counts. When you look at women as just a piece of meat or something that's just there for us to, as man, to take, or for us to lust after like that, morally and our character, that we begin to talk to women inappropriately and do things inappropriately. And books like this bring on, plant seeds that don't need to be there. And so, I've been addressed to talk about possibly putting ratings on books and doing things like that. I don't know if that's an idea that we begin to look at, but I definitely believe that we need to look up the definition of appropriateness and what's appropriate for children. And we've lost that. For us to sit up here and think that this material is appropriate, it's okay to stay in the library, but we can't even put that up on the screen tonight to be read. I can't even read it tonight because there's a child that's in the room. But it'd be okay for my child, who's 11 years old, to read that in front of him. So there's some issues. There's some deep issues that need to be fixed. There are more books that are in our libraries that need to be looked at, and they're going to come up before this board continually as the years go on, as the year goes on, and they're going to continue to come up before us. And there needs to be a way where we can cut a lot of this red tape and let it come before us, and we can look at it. If they're talking about things in this book that is talking about in there, it's inappropriate. Come on. If you disagree with that, that's wrong. If you disagree, it's okay to tell racial jokes in books. You're wrong. It's not okay. So I'm not going to ask tonight to take a vote on putting a Bible in every school library, because they are in some libraries. But I am asking you, Dr. Scheichel, that you would check every library in Rockingham County Public Schools and find out who has Bibles and who doesn't have Bibles, and that you would get back that list to me and to the board to find out what schools have that. And I'm also asking that there would be a Bible placed in every library, and that it would be cataloged in every library, and that it would be accessible to every child in that library. And so that's what I'm requesting tonight. It's not against the law to have the Bibles in our libraries. Some of them do, some of them don't. But in the generation we're living in, I think it'd be great to have a Bible inside every library for a kid could go to and check that out. For kids can go in there and they could highlight their favorite verses. For kids who are dealing with depression and suicide and different things they're struggling with, to go to somewhere and at least find some hope. Instead of picking up filth like this in the library that they can read, at least go find that and find some hope inside of our library. So, Mr. Scheichel, I'm asking that you would bring a list at the next school board meeting. Even if I'm not here, I will listen to it and find out which libraries do and which don't, and that we would begin to make sure that there is Bibles in every library here in Rockingham County Public Schools. And with that tonight, I'll give it back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you asking only about the Bible, or do you want me to look at the Torah, Quran, Book of Mormon, or other religious books as well?
I'm asking specifically for the Bible.
Thank you.
Ms. Lord?
I have a question for our high school students tonight. Are you having fun? Yeah, no.
You don't have to lie about it.
Do you want to go home? But I would like a shout out. Just shout out what school you're from. What? I still don't understand you. Your TA too? Okay, because it totally sounded like you were saying something different. Sorry. I didn't mean to single you out. And then do you guys have any questions about anything you've seen? I will defer my questions to you all. Yes.
At this point, I'm just asking for the Bible. I'm not opposed, if you want to know that, Mr. Superintendent, I'm not opposed to having the Quran or the Torah or the Book of Mormon in our libraries. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just asking that, is there a Bible in every library? And at this time, I'm asking that there be a Bible in every library.
And so the majority of you guys were from TA. I went to TA, so this could be you one day. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lord. Dr. McQuilkin?
I pass.
Thank you. Mr. Falk? Thank you. Dr. Scheichel?
I'll pass.
All right. Thank you all for being here this evening. As I said, we'll be happy to sign your agendas to show that you were here and you sat patiently through this meeting and completed that assignment. However, we do have need to enter into a closed meeting, and I will entertain a motion in that regard.
Charlotte just looks at me now. I move that the board enter a closed meeting to discuss and consider the following pursuant to the provisions of Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1, personnel, specific public officers, appointees, or employees for the purpose of considering such individuals' assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, salary, or resignation.
Thank you, Ms. Lord. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. We'll take about a 5-10 minute recess here so we can sign these agendas, and then we'll meet for closed session.